Georgia, Alabama. Sports Live will be your go-to for all your favorite high school and collegiate games this fall. From the Carver Tigers to the Columbus Blue Devils, the Harris County Tigers and Northside Patriots, the Glenwood Gators and Calvary Christian Knights, the Pacelli Vikings and Brookstone Cougars, to the Smith Station Panthers and Russell County Warriors, from CVCC Pirates basketball and baseball and every tournament from here to Macon. We are the #1 destination for anything happening in East Alabama and West Central Georgia. Be sure to like and follow us on YouTube and Facebook, and stay tuned for even more amazing ways we will be bringing Georgia, Alabama Sports Live to you this upcoming season. We can't wait to come see you next. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. I was going to have, I guess, you know how all the talk show hosts, they always got that guy that introduced them. What was the guy's name for Conan O'Brien? Andy Richter.
Andy Richter, yeah.
And I can't think of the piano player. I think he's blind, that played for David Letterman. Either way, it seemed like that.
Paul Schaefer.
Paul Schaefer. How can I forget Paul Schaefer? But anyway, it's Thrift, Barringer, it's Richard Holdridge. It's a Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show, and we got a lot we're going to be getting into. We're actually going to update what's happening in softball and volleyball around the area as their seasons are coming to an end and playoffs are about to start. Flag football is coming up here soon. We also preview Week 7 in high school football, and we drop our Georgia Alabama Sports Live ratings poll. So we're going to be doing all of that. But first, what we're going to do is we are going to talk about last week's players of the game, Richard. And I just want to make mention, we did a football game. Congratulations to CJ Starr of the Spencer Green Waves. His dad, me and him have been talking back and forth. For one, CJ leads the team in tackles. He's got close to 70 already. He's going to break the 100 threshold easily. He's one of the best defensive players in our area. I see all by city in his future. And not only that as well, Richard, he's got a 3.7 GPA. So he's an outstanding student. And that's stuff that we want to make sure we get out to the public. They understand. I saw as well from the defensive lineman for Carver, Tristan Givens, another guy with a high GPA that's doing great things. And we're all about celebrating them. He was the player of the game last week in their win over Jordan. So congratulations to CJ Starr, the linebacker for the Spencer Green Waves.
Yes, congratulations to all the student athletes that we cover here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And I can't wait for this upcoming week, Week 7. We're already at the halfway point of high school football.
All right, so let's talk about a few of the others. We had Glenwood. Mason McCrane was player of the game. He was fantastic, Richard. Great job by Mike Peacock, who was on the call for their 62-38 win. He looked great last week. Harris County Pacelli came up short. We talked about that on Saturday. But Abby Lovell from Northside won player of the game in that huge matchup against Harris County on Thursday. Riley Huckabee won player of the game against Troup County on Monday. So both of those players are all-state players. They're going to be playing, I think, at the D1 level for both those respective programs, and they could be facing each other in the state championship this year, Richard. So congratulations to both those young ladies for winning. And Caroline Hilton, the volleyball player, senior from Pacelli, 27-2 are the Vikings. I think they're hands down the best volleyball team we have in our area. They're ranked top 10 in the state, regardless of classification, whether in the GIAA or GHSA. Pacelli's like number 7 or 8. And in the GIAA, they're head and shoulders above everybody else.
No question, the Pacelli volleyball team has just been firing on all cylinders. It's not just Caroline Hilton; it's that solid front line of Shannon Menifee, Anna Doe, the Mesnick sisters, and the Schonberg sisters. And I tell you what, I'm just excited to see what Pacelli can do in the GIAA playoffs as well. Well, actually, they're going to be having the state championship. It's going to be up in Noonan on October the 12th through the 14th, and they're going to get an automatic bid. And they're going to be ready to go in that playoff matchup.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how that goes down, Richard. And we're going to be having it October the 5th right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. So we also have Jack Patterson. He'll be coming on here in just a little bit, but I did want to kind of update the standings that are happening in volleyball and softball. And I guess we'll go with volleyball. I was looking at Muskogee County, Richard. Right now, Columbus is undefeated in region play. They beat both Shaw and Spencer today. They go to 6-0 in region. They're the favorite out of Muskogee County. And I'm not including Northside in that because, remember, they're not in their region. That I think could make a decent playoff run within 2A. But I'm telling you, they have a losing record, but they're 3-1 in region play. Coach Kendall Bill's Hardaway Hawks. Do not sleep on them. They could be making the playoffs this year. Carver's right behind them at 2-2. So now we got about a week and a half, 2 weeks left. Very interesting seeing how the rest of this plays out. But obviously Columbus is, they're the favorite. They're the top dog. But then everybody else, it's really a coin toss for who could be that second, third, or fourth team to make the playoffs this year, Richard.
Yeah, and we had a chance to see Columbus earlier on in the season. I mean, they dropped the tri-match to Northgate and Pacelli. But since then, they have just improved, and they picked up 2 big wins against Shaw and Spencer today. And Columbus looks like they're ready to go in it comes to playoff time. And I think that, we've got some talented volleyball teams in this area. We know that Northside is good. They're going to be competing at the volleyball level. And you also got to look at Calvary as well, as they're trying to get a berth in the volleyball playoffs as they're currently, and Brookstone as well. So you got some talented teams in the GIAA that are trying to go to the state championship as well.
Now, and as you may mention about the GIAA, Pacelli being 27-2, Richard, they're ranked right now. I'm looking at Max Preps, 13th in the state, undefeated in region. And of course, GIAA, they are ranked number 1 overall. And in their region, Brookstone's number 2. Guess who's number 3, Rich?
That would
be Calvary Christian.
Calvary.
So, all 3 Columbus schools.
Wow.
I wasn't trying to stump you there, Richard, but all 3 Columbus schools are ranked within the top 3 in their region. Brookstone's number 3 in the Maxwell rankings right now. Number 7 is Calvary Christian. So if it goes the way it stands, Brookstone will be hosting, Pacelli will be hosting, and then Calvary will be on the road at another school. So what we're hoping, and this is just, obviously perfect world, and I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're hoping that either Calvary moves up to 6 and goes to Brookstone, or I don't want them losing a match or anything, but I like them to either be maybe at Pacelli. I just want them to be local so we can make sure that we get them when the playoffs start this upcoming.
Oh, no question.
October the 5th is when that starts. And I'm actually pulling up the Maxwell rankings right now. And as I may mention, it's like the way they do their ratings, they use Max Preps. There's only 2 classifications. Pacelli's number 1. Brookstone is actually number 2. So Brookstone jumped the King's Academy. So right now, Calvary would be at Brookstone, and Pacelli would be hosting. So we may be able to get them. That could be doubleheader Saturday, October the 5th, Rich. And
Calvary has split the season series with Brookstone. They were able to beat them the last time they faced the Lady Cougars.
Exactly right. All right. And that is in volleyball. Harris County, looking at they're having an up and down year, but they're staying competitive, Richard. Obviously, they got a tri-match coming up on Monday that's got Glenwood in it, Rich. And I think, is it Troup County or Shaw?
Yeah, it's Shaw. It's
Shaw.
Glenwood, Shaw, and Harris County.
We got Shaw a couple times now, Richard. But looking at their schedule, 12-17, they have not won a region game. Harris County girls probably not going to make the playoffs this year. And then let's go to the Glenwood Gators, who won a state championship, Richard, in previous years.
Yes.
And looking at the Gators right now, I'm trying to pull up their schedule because I know they got at Central coming up.
Yeah, they'll play Central the final regular season game.
So they're 13-11, but they're undefeated in region play.
They just beat Beulah on Monday.
Yep, and they beat LaGrange before that and Lee Scott. So they got Troup County at Columbus. So Troup County, Columbus, and Glenwood is a tri-match this Thursday. Then they got at Harris County, Lee Scott at home, and at Central to end it. So right now, there is no more. Lee Scott will be the final region game. They win that, they'll finish the region undefeated, number one in the region, and looking like Coach Strank's team could make a decent run in 3A playoffs for volleyball this year in the AHSAA. And then the Central Red Devils, they're 10-9, led by Coach Lindsay, not Travis Lindsay, who was at Matthews, his wife, Akika Lindsay. Jabril Lindsay also plays on that team. They're 10-9. They just beat Hotville and Percy Julian. They did lose 3-1 to Columbus. They got Smith Station on Thursday. They got Shaw, Northside, and then they end it with Glenwood and Smith Station. So I expect them to make the playoffs this year. Looking in their region play, they are 1-1, tied for second in the region. Let's go to softball and Muskogee County. It really is Columbus and everybody else, isn't it, Richard?
Yeah, Columbus was able to beat Shaw. Columbus was undefeated, and they were playing Shaw last Thursday. And I think that Columbus is the team to beat, a team that was on the doorstep of making it to the Elite Eight to have an opportunity to play at the South Common Softball Complex last year. And I know for Coach Martin, that is the goal, is to get to the Super Regionals and get that berth to play in the Elite Eight down in Columbus. And they've got a very good team. They've got some tough games coming up. I think that's going to allow them to be battle-tested because they will play Northside. We know what Coach Carastory has got in Northside. They're the two-time state champions. So I think that this rivalry matchup between Columbus and Northside, it's really going to be a testament to see if Columbus can compete with the higher classification of teams and really two outstanding programs. And guess what? We're going to have it on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
Exactly. But neither one of them in the same region. But you're right. They're the two best teams that are in Muskogee County. And they're 8-0 in their region right now. They have not lost a region game. Looking at the region, second place is Shaw, who is 8-2. Sumter County is third, and fourth is Hardaway. So those would be your playoff teams right now. And then obviously we got Harris County and Northside. Those are the best two programs, I think, in the entire state in 4A. And I think that's like a juggernaut ready to happen for a championship. They faced in the semifinals the last couple of years. Why can't we get them in the state final this year, Rich?
Why not? Also, Thrift, on that note, I had an opportunity to interview Coach Halstead, the Calvary softball coach. They are currently ranked 4th in the entire GIAA behind Tatnall and FPD and I want to say Loganville. They're right there. Only 4 teams are going to make the GIAA softball playoffs, which is going to take place at the South Common Softball Complex on October 17th through the 19th. But they got a big game against Strong Rock this Thursday. Hopefully they'll play it because I know we're going to have some inclement weather because of Tropical Storm Helene, who's probably going to become a hurricane by Thursday. But then they play Brookstone. And so I think that the Calvary Lady Knights could possibly get that 4th and final playoff spot down in Columbus.
Yeah, Halstead has done an excellent job with that Calvary program. They've taken a few lumps, but they've also played some really good teams. They've had an incredible schedule. And they're young, man. They only got freshmen, sophomores, some 8th graders. This team is building for the future. But they still have a chance this year. Now, Tatnall Square is elite. They are tops in the country. That's how good they are. So I don't know if Calvary's good enough to beat them at a state championship, but they did play them tough. And who knows? Maybe they could even make it to a state championship. So great job by Calvary Christian. And then obviously we talked about Brandon Jenkins, Sidney Carey-Story, Northside, Harris County, Riley Huckabee, Abby Lovell. Cannot wait to see what's going to happen at South Commons. You got the GIAA at South Commons and the GHSA at South Commons, home for everything softball in the state of Georgia.
Well, it makes sense because it's also the home of USA softball. So the South Commons Softball Complex is a great venue that just showcases, also the NAIA World Series. I mean, You have adult leagues that play there. And why not have both the GHSA and the GIAA be at the South Commons Softball Complex? What a great venue. And the Columbus Sports Council, they do it big. And we just appreciate everything that the Columbus Sports Council does, just putting on these big events.
I completely agree with that, Richard. We are presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. We'll be live this Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Central Time. Me and Rich breaking down what happened in the previous week in all of sports, specifically in football. Richard will be finally back in town. That will be his welcome home party on Saturday, Rich. So can't wait for that. Also, thank you to our new sponsor, Gordy Eye Care. Griff Gordy for all your eye care, the official eye care sponsor of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We're home to CVCC Athletics. Also, thank you to Pepsi and Buffalo Rock and Zaxby's. And we are also presented by the Beck Center as well. So thank you to Roger Beck and the Beck Center of Academic and Athletic Success. All our sponsors, we appreciate their love of what we do. Thank you to Masterwall. We appreciate them and their support of what we do, Richard. And just without our sponsors, none of this stuff is made possible. All right, there's your update in the sports that we have coming up. I did want to say, put it down on your calendar. We have Basketball Media Day for the third straight year, Rich. Me and you're going to be hosting it. The Echo Latino, Courier Echo Latino Basketball Media Day, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports live from the Beck Center. Will be coming up November the 3rd, Rich. November the 3rd. We'll be streaming it. Looking forward to doing it. We're going to have all the teams from our area. Looking forward to previewing the season. So November the 3rd, put that on your plate. Also, coming up in October, we'll have Flag Football Media Day. So just get ready as we start preparing for the new sports. You think football is where we stop? This is just us getting started, baby. We're going to take a break. When we come back from break, we're going to drop our ratings poll. But we're going to bring someone on to tell us if we're right or if we're wrong. And I respect no one else's opinion more than Jack Patterson of WRBL, the sports director. We'll have that coming up next on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this. Let's go! Woo! Woo! Yeah! Woo! Football time! Set the tone.
Kyle, tie your shoes, tie your shoes.
Yeah, good job. Woo! Yeah!
Grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Truckloads of fresh inventory are rolling into Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. Check out the powerful new Chevrolet Silverado 4-wheel drive crew cabs, discounted up to $13,750 off. Chevy Equinox with discounts up to $6,000 off. And listen to this, 2024 Chevy Blazer EV, as low as $295 a month. Brand new Chevy Blazer EV, 24 months lease, just $295 a month.
Get ready to smile.
We're smiling right now as we're back on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. Let's stop holding him. He's a busy guy. He's important, and he's who I respect very dearly. His name is Jack P. of News 3. What is up, my brother?
You know how the saying goes. What's up and what's good, fellas?
Man, it's been rocking and rolling. I know you've been crazy busy too. By the way, saw you in Auburn, but obviously I was upstairs in the air condition. You were getting fried like my girlfriend and her kids for that Auburn, Arkansas, putrid, terrible quarterback performance. We're not going to get into that. But it's like everywhere I'm at, I know JP is going to be at, man.
I've never seen a game where both starting quarterbacks got benched.
That's how bad it was. All right, Jack, we're bringing you on because I respect your opinion very dearly, and we're dropping our weekly ratings poll. So before we do that, though, I did want you to kind of give a summary of how you think the football season going so far.
I think it's been a lot of surprises this year. I mean, you have the typical guys up at the front. You've got Central, who's still undefeated. You've got Carver, whose only loss has been to a game, Harris County, this year. You know, you have your typical, front runners. You've got Auburn that's looking good this year. You've got Brookstone, who just pulled off a massive upset over Stratford Academy coming off of their state championship run. So big win for Rance Gillespie and those guys. But at the same time, you've had a lot of surprises. A lot of people thought Harris County was going to be down this year after losing so much talent last year. Instead, they've only gotten out to a 4-1 start, and they're going to be our game of the week this week against Northside, who's another great team. They're 3-1 so far. You've seen Troup County; they've gotten off to a great start when a lot of people thought they weren't going to be because they lost so much talent. But hey, here we are once again. They're back in the mix. I say Glenwood as well, and not because the talent wasn't there, but making the switch from the AISA to the AHSAA, a lot of people thought they were going to struggle. Here they are, still undefeated. So, like I said, it's been a mix of things that we've expected and a mix of a lot of surprises so far this year.
All right, Richard, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Jack, there's another team that you forgot to mention. Russell County is 4-1.
Yeah,
who would have thought? I mean,
Russell County might be the biggest surprise out of that group, honestly, Richard. You bring up an excellent point, and I go back to what Coach Dylan Griggs said in our training camp tour back in the summer. He said that he finally has this team healthy, and he says if this team can stay healthy, they'll be dangerous. And look what they've done so far. They're living up to the hype so far.
Yeah, and they have not made the playoffs in 10 years. So I know that they got Valley coming up this Friday. I mean, they got a lot of winnable games on their schedule, and they're 3-0 in the region.
And that's a huge help already to be 3-0 so far in the regular season in the region. That's a huge help as you get ready. Believe it or not, we're already at the midway point of the season. It doesn't feel like it, but that's where we are. And these games are just only going to increase in importance as we go further down the calendar.
All right, let's throw it up there. It's the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live ratings poll. We're going to start from 10 to 1. Each one of us will have an opportunity to kind of dissect how we did our ratings. And this is the first time actually Jack is seeing this. So we're actually putting him on the spot right now. But number 10 is the Shaw Raiders. I'm going to be honest with you, Jack. When we did game day last week, Sumter County coming in undefeated. Shaw being a team that, is good, but I feel like they're a year away from being where Coach Gardner wants them to be. And I really love Aaron Grant. That guy is a phenomenal talent. But they held their own against Sumter and could have won the game. So I feel like we couldn't drop Shaw out. They come in at number 10. What's your thoughts on them, Jack?
Okay, so what I was doing over here, I've got my other monitor over here, and I'm looking at those postseason rankings. Remember those postseason rankings I told you, Thrift, that's going to be of max importance as we get ready to go into the playoffs this year. And Sumter County is the number 3 team in those rankings, okay? And Shaw lost to them by 1. Okay? To put this in perspective, Sumter County is number 3 in those rankings. Carver is now number 6 in those rankings. Okay? And once again, I say this as importance because with Sumter County and Carver, probably in the driver's seat right now. Shaw can, still jump into that against, if they pull off the win against Carver coming up in a few weeks. But as of right now, Sumter County and Carver are in the driver's seat to be either the region champion or the region runner-up, which means that for everyone else, it's falling to the at-large bids. And right now, Shaw is in a high spot that even if the top 8 seeds, which is not going to happen, but the top 8 seeds won region titles in the region runner-ups, they still are in a spot to make the playoffs. And that's huge for a team in its second season with Johnny Garner. I've been putting up Sumter County all season long on the Prep Zone preview. been a believer in how they've played so far this year, and I think they're for real, and I think they're legit. And for Shaw to hang tough with them, and honestly had a legitimate shot to win that game, I think that speaks volumes of where that team is so far in the Johnny Garner era for that team.
Yeah, Jack, there's really no question that Shaw played just a phenomenal game against Sumter County. And we had to keep Shaw at 10. I know Hardaway's also 2-3, but Shaw has won the head-to-head. I would say that Hardaway is right on the cusp. I think that, Hardaway can actually – they could prove themselves this Friday against Carver. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. We saw what Carver did to Columbus, 49-0, only holding that offense to 13 yards, which is incredible. That defense is playing lights out. But Hardaway's Bobby Gary has been making plays, and Hardaway could easily be 4-1 or 3-2. There were two games that could have went the other way. That game against Booker T. Washington, they played Jackson close. And I think that, they played Shaw close too.
Yeah,
I think that the Hardaway Hawks, I think the Hardaway Hawks are a team that could fight for the one of the playoff spots.
Yeah,
all right, and let me correct myself. That game was a 3-point game. Most of the game, Shaw scored that late touchdown to kind of pull away. But that was a close game throughout. But no, I'm right there with you, Richard. And we talked about this on the Prep Zone preview last week, how well and we said this, and I agree wholeheartedly. Tyler Redmond said this, and I agree wholeheartedly with it. And you alluded to this a little bit earlier. The see where Shaw and Hardaway are going to be next year is going to be so much fun. To have both Aaron Grant and Bobby Gary as juniors with just another year of experience under their belts, it's going to be so much fun to see them grow. I cannot wait. I feel like Hardaway is right there. They're on the cusp. I'm right there with you. They have games that they could have won, but that's a part of the growing process. They're also in the second year of Ryan McKenzie. That's a part of the growing process. Remember, this was a team last year that wasn't even remotely close in these games, okay? And now you see them in the game fighting for the win in every game, and that is a definite change of pace from where they were last year. And I think that, it's at that point where, you've got to start paying attention to them. And then, like I said, it may not be this year, okay? This might not be the year. But keep in mind, they're talented enough to go win these games. But I really think for Hardaway and for Shaw, that next year is going to be a year to remember for both of those squads.
I completely agree with that, gentlemen. And I think Hardaway is a team that will go 5-5 this year. And again, it is really hard for me not to say Coach McKenzie being coach of the year from this change of mindset, culture, everything in 1 year. The transformation has been unbelievable. Let's keep moving forward. Number 9, Pacelli. They took a tough one against Whitfield, but if they finish out strong, they win these next 5, which are tough games. Brookstone, Westfield, Strong Rock. They win these, next 4, finish 6-3. They could be top 4 seed in the GIAA rankings, and then anything can happen. We've seen that with Brookstone these last couple of years. And then number 8 is the Spencer Green Waves. Now, Spencer, I honestly think the way the schedule is set up, got a big one against Sumter County, and I think Carver is the best team in this region. But Spencer, Sumter County, that's going to vie for that number 2 that gets that automatic bid into the playoffs this year, Jack, as we talked about in Richard. I understand head-to-head. I'd be more willing to probably lean towards Spencer over Brookstone. But remember, when we do our ratings, it's not head-to-head. It's chances to win state in your league. And I put Brookstone as one of the 3 teams in the GIAA to win a state championship this year. So we'll talk about them in just a moment. But Spencer coming in 3-2. They got Kendrick tomorrow. We are going to try to get that game on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And Pacelli host Strong Rock Christian. And I just want to make mention before y'all two take turns talking about each one of those teams. Rex Castillo will be making his debut as a play-by-play announcer for the Hardaway Carver game. So, guys, let's clap it up for our guy Rex, man, making his debut. He was color for Dave last week. I'm like, Rex, dude, try play-by-play. I'm telling you, you'll like it. You'll be good at it. So we're going to have him and Chris Gates doing that Hardaway Carver game on Friday. But back to the
Wait, hold on, time out. Chris is doing color for that game?
No. Chris is producing. Chris.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, because if that's the case, I'm gonna have to just have my phone and shoot like this. Okay, I would pay good money to see that happen, y'all. So let that be a thought. Okay, to have Rex and Chris call a game. Okay, but
Yes.
no, all seriousness, Rex is gonna be fantastic on play-by-play and a huge game too. Hardaway Carver, that's gonna be right up his wheelhouse. Is gonna have a lot of energy. I can't wait to see him do his thing.
Let's talk about number 9 and number 8. Richard, you talk Pacelli, and then we'll let Jack do Spencer. Pacelli, we watched that against Whitfield. Richard just came up with a tough loss. They've had a couple of those close calls, but they got a big region game against Strong Rock. They need to win this Friday. They come in at number 9.
Well, they started 0-2, tough losses to Stratford at home and then on the road to Tatnall. And then they put everybody on notice when they upset First Presbyterian Day. And, it was a win at Dimel Field. First Presbyterian Day was the defending champions. They throttled Stone Mountain, and so they got a lot of momentum. But Whitfield Academy was just a talented team, and Pacelli did have the lead in this game, but Whitfield ended up pulling away. Now, you look at the schedule. Strong Rock, it's coming up this Friday. We'll have it on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. October the 4th, they're taking on Calvary Christian. October the 11th, it's the battle for the Brucelli Jug. I think and also Pacelli's got Westfield School. So Pacelli, like you mentioned, can run the table and make a deep run in the GIAA playoffs.
All right, Spencer. Jack, if you want to add on anything with Pacelli.
I'll agree with a lot of what Richard said. And I'll say this about Pacelli's schedule so far is that it is a tough schedule. Okay. Dwight Jones knew what he was doing when he scheduled that, because it is to get that team ready for the gauntlet of the region schedule. And I think that will be the kind of thing that pays dividends for them in the back half of the season. As for Spencer, they're the one team in all this chaos we've been talking about in Region 1, 2A. They're the one team that nobody's talking about. Okay.
Right.
They are quietly 3-2 so far on the year. And this game against Sumter County, I really think is going to be huge, because we're going to really get to see where this Spencer team is amongst the teams in 2A. We forget, because it's been a month now since the Heritage Bowl, and how close that game was, and how they played Carver to one of their closest games of the season. And then you're talking about playing a Sumter County team that just came off a battle against Shaw. And this is, this has postseason implications. I'll say the same thing for this game that I said for Sumter County Shaw last week. This is a game right now that's going to matter in November. So let me take a look, because I still got it pulled up. So Shaw's 13th in those those postseason rankings that I had out. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Spencer is 20th. A win against Sumter County vaults them up those rankings. Okay? So this is a huge, huge game. And Spencer, and I know Joe Kegler and that squad have postseason aspirations. A
100%.
win against the Panthers would do wonders for their postseason aspirations.
I think that's a great point, and looking forward to seeing that. I'm going Spencer Greenways. I believe in Joe Kegler and their team. And as I made mention about CJ Starr, the linebacker, who's just been absolutely phenomenal. All right, let's go through these now further quickly. Number 6, Northside. Another bye. They take on Harris County. We'll learn more about the Northside Patriots as their one tough test they've had this year. They got dominated against Carver 26-0. And Carver got bullied around by Harris County. But Harris County did just lose last week. Northside's coming off a bye. And Coach Orr pays his team. We got to know if it's Caden Clay's been kind of nicked up, it seems like, since week 1. So if you get a fully healthy, maybe Caden Clay, Northside will make a difference. And then the surprise team, because I just glossed over number 7. So we talked Northside. And then number 7, Brookstone. Beating Stratford was probably the biggest win of the night last Friday. Stratford was undefeated in the GIAA, ranked number 3. Jack, you know this. Me and Richard talked about it on the GIAA scoreboard show, which you can watch every Friday night at 11 o'clock on GIAA.tv. Brookstone, 3-2, get a big win over Stratford. I'm telling you right now, they're going to finish out strong, and I really think Brookstone is one of my favorites to bring on hardware this year. I know it's the Red Devils. I think outside of the Red Devils, all the other teams are going to have tough slates. They play in tough classifications. I put Brookstone as that second best team to win it all this year. They just had that loss against FPD that didn't look great, 6-3, but FPD's also a good team too. 7 Brookstone, 6 Northside. Richard, you go first, and we'll go Jack.
Yeah, and they also lost to Valwood, which was the defending 3A champion. So really some tough losses for the Brookstone Cougars. But I think that down 13 against an undefeated Stratford Academy team that is much improved from last year, they're one of the favorites in the GIAA, to win it in overtime. They have to just have a lot of confidence, and they play in Calvary Christian this Friday. Brookstone they got one goal on their plate. Yes, they want to win a state championship. They are circling on that calendar October the 11th. They have one thing on their mind, and that is to get the Brucelli jug back on the campus of Brookstone. But yeah, a state championship would be nice too.
So starting with Brookstone, I mean, I agree with you, Thrift. Biggest win of the night last week, and it was literally our play of the night. The game-winning touchdown in overtime to knock Stratford from the ranks of the unbeaten. That is a huge, huge win, and especially when things have not exactly gone according to plan for Brookstone. You talk about that loss against FPD. That was a really good. They've always been really good, but to lose to them in the way they did, that wasn't they left a bad taste in their mouth too. But to come back and get a win over Stratford, one of the top teams in your classification, huge, huge deal for Brookstone. As for Northside, I went out there and talked with Coach Orpeza and the boys today, and I promise you, they are locked in, focused, ready for this game against Harris County. It's going to be a big one. We talked about all this postseason stuff in Class 2A. Not a problem in 4A. It's just like it used to be. Top 4 teams make the playoffs, which means Harris County's already got one region loss. They are not looking to lose any more region games, okay?
No.
Northside's looking to kick their region schedule off with a bang by beating not just one of the best teams in the region, but a huge rival they have. So that's going to be a high. This game, once again, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but this is a game that's going to have impact on November. And this is a game that, could have impact on playoff seeding and much, much more. So Northside, I like where they're at in the poll, knowing that they have a major opportunity on their hands this week. And so does Harris County for that matter.
Yeah, exactly. And North, as good as a start as Harris County, and we'll talk about it in a moment, as they've had to be 4-0 and trying to go 5-0 and first time in school history, not able to do that. They're 0-1 in region play. So they can't go down 0-2. But a team that has probably been the surprise team, I had them going 4-6 this year, 5-5 around there. Richard said 7-3, and now he's thinking 9-1. He loves those Russell County Warriors and Bryson Riggins. I mean, how can you not like this guy? This is quarterback play in our area is not one of those things that is a weakness for these programs. Aaron Grant, Bobby Gary, the futures. Bryson Riggins, another team. Levi Pender, about as efficient you can get for Glenwood. Caden Clay from Northside. Andrew Alford. Matthew Monkton's been great. Fudge from Spencer.
He might be here all night, Thrift.
Naming every single one of them. I mean, it's just been incredible. That's going to be tough for All-By City. But how about Russell County coming in at number 5? Jack, what do you think about the Warriors being a top 5 team?
I mean, like I said, they're probably the biggest surprise in the area this year. A lot of people kind of wrote Russell County off the last couple of years, but a lot of people also don't realize that this team has had some of the worst injury luck I've seen at a high school team have. Okay? They've had key players banged up at key times in the season, and it showed. Okay? But now you have Bryson Riggins, who is just lighting the world on fire right now. And that team, that offense is so explosive, man, that it's really just fun to watch. And at this point, you've got to start taking the Warriors seriously. I mean, I really do think they'll be a threat in 6A this year. And I think, as they continue, I think, they'll take down Valley pretty easily. And I think Valley's a little bit down this year just because of the talent they've lost, even though they've been playing well too. But I think Russell County wins this week. And I really think that Russell County has the opportunity. I don't think Richard's 9-1 is far-fetched by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I don't think so either. Go ahead, Rich.
Well, let me tell you something about Russell County, and Jack knows this. This is really where I got my start. I mean, I keep mentioning, I feel like a broken record because I keep mentioning that I was the public address announcer in 2021. Also in 2022, I called all their home games for Bean. And so I know this Russell County team. 2022 was just an anomaly because the expectations were so high. They finished 6-4 in 2021. 2022, they beat Harris County in the opener. They've had some tough losses in that year. And last year, they, like you mentioned, Jack, they were snake bitten by injuries. Bryson Riggins was inserted mid-season, threw for 25 touchdowns last year as a sophomore. Now Bryson Riggins is got a year under his belt. He's only a junior, but really the motor that keeps this offense going is Devin Brown, a patient senior running back who is the backup running back to Drew Pickett and the backup running back to Kelston Popcorn Tarver. So he stayed patient, and he has just had a phenomenal season. And when you think about the receiving core of Denver Harper and Jamari Burnett, Bryson Riggins has weapons to throw the football to. And I do think 9-1, 8-2. I think that Pike Road game is going to be tough on the road, but they beat Wetumpka, and I didn't expect that at all because Wetumpka is one of the top teams in 6A. Now, I do think Russell County makes the playoffs. They might host a playoff game, but to win a 6A championship, you're talking about having to beat teams like Saraland, Clay, Chalkville, Spanish Fort. It's tough, Jack. You know this. You know that 6A is just a gauntlet of teams.
Yeah,
but Dylan Griggs will be the first person to tell you, Richard. You know this just as well as I do. Why not us? Okay,
yeah,
and right now these guys are playing at a high level, and if they can keep growing and keep building, why not the Warriors?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with both of y'all guys. So I'm excited to see what happens with Russell County and Dylan Griggs and see if they can make the playoffs first time in 10 years. All right, top four. Number 4, Glenwood. Obviously, what they've done in the AHSA has put everybody on notice. Alabama Sports Writers poll has them in the top 8. They beat a really good Beulah team. They beat a top-ranked Elba team. They have taken care of against Valley. They go on the road to number 1 in 1A, Wadley. If the Gators somehow finish undefeated, I think they're going to be top 3, top 2 in the AHSA. And then you got to start saying state championship, which I know that's kind of hard to believe for most people. How about the Gators, guys, and what they've done? Levi Pender has been great. Jermaine Brown and Makai Simpson, that running back duo is about as hard to tackle as anyone. You got elite receivers in Mason McCrane. The defense makes stops when needed under Josh McConnell. Markel Robinson, one of the defensive linemen who just had an incredible game against Beulah. The Gators at number 4. Either one of y'all can go.
Well, I'll kick things off with Glenwood, man. And I mean, I'll tell you this: the first thing that pops in my mind with Glenwood is, just the attitude that Ryan Nelson carries around this team. And it's like, I remember talking to him preseason, and he was saying that, we're not nervous or scared going to the AHSAA. We're prepared. We know what's coming. The coaches have prepared these guys. And I mean, 5-0 says everything you need to know, right? And the types of teams they've beaten so far this year. I personally cannot wait for Glenwood Lee Scott coming up in a couple of weeks. In my mind, that will more than likely be a region championship game. I cannot wait for that showdown because both of those schools have been fantastic in their debut seasons in the AHSAA. Obviously, the history is there. Forget the long-standing rivalry. The last 2 years, they played each other in the AISA 3A state title game, and Lee Scott's come out on top. But Glenwood definitely wants to get the better of the Warriors, not just for rivalry reasons, but for region reasons as well. And I really think that those two teams are going to battle in a couple weeks. I can't wait for that game, but Glenwood has gotten off to a hot start. And I'll really say this is that I feel like the winner of that Glenwood Lee Scott game has the inside track on being one of the teams that's going to be contending for a 3A state title.
I actually agree with you 100%, Jack. There was a lot of unknowns about Glenwood and Lee Scott making the transition into the AHSAA. In fact, the Alabama Sports Writers Association did not give them a single vote in the preseason poll because they just didn't know, or they just didn't pay attention to the AISA football. But AISA football has talent. They play at a high level. So why can't they compete with the public schools? Glenwood is proving it. Lee Scott is proving it. Glenwood's taking on the number 1 team in 1A in Wadley this week. I do think that game, it's going to be homecoming, but October the 4th, they're taking on Randolph County. I think that's going to be a tough game because Randolph County did beat Lee Scott. They've got some very intriguing matchups, including a non-region game against Sylacauga. I just think that having Glenwood and Lee Scott, for that matter, in the AHSAA has really showcased these programs, and the public schools in Alabama are starting to notice them. And I think it's giving both schools a lot of exposure, and it's good for us because, we can talk about it. And I do think that Glenwood is just having a phenomenal season. What they did to Beulah, and Beulah's a good team, by the way.
Agreed.
They were 3-1 going into that game. I mean, putting up 62 points on the road in Beulah is just fantastic. And I think the Gators can go as far as they can take.
All right, I agree with that, guys. All right, number 3, Carver Tigers. They got beat up by Harris County. Everybody's saying Carver's for dead, and they just take care of business against Northside. They're going to win out. They're going to be 9-1. They got a big one against Sumter County. We're going to get on Georgia Alabama Sports Live in just a few weeks. But Carver comes in at number 3, Harris County number 2, and Central number 1. This doesn't change. Carver dominated last week. Me and Richard have talked about them extensively, how great they've been. Their defense is lights out. Tristan Givens, Jacoby Castlin's one of the best athletes around. Jack, what thoughts on Carver before we move on to Harris County and Central?
First things first, and I feel like I have to say this all the time, but doubt Carver at your own peril. Okay,
Right.
That's one thing you just should not do, even when they have a game where they may not play at their best. Like, doubt that team if you want to. I don't doubt Pierre Coffey. Okay, I've seen that man coach too many teams for too long to doubt his teams. I've seen him do it at Spencer. I've seen him do it at Chatco. I've now seen him do it at Carver. Okay, you don't doubt teams coached by Pierre Coffey. This team's going to be just fine. It's a tough region. And I mean, Harris County is no slouch, number 1. Okay, so I feel like if you're going to lose a game of the games they've lost so far, losing it to Harris County is not, something to just be shamed about, because Harris County is a really good team. And I really think Carver, as we've talked about, that matchup with Sumter County coming up in a couple of weeks, that's going to be your biggie. It more than likely will be for the region championship unless Spencer or Shaw has something to say about it. But I really do think that those two teams are kind of at the top of that region right now. And I really do think that Carver controls their own destiny, but in this region, it's far from easy, as we've already seen so far. So Carver's got to be on their game, but if they come out and play like they did against Northside last week, I don't know if anybody around here that's going to be able to touch them, but there's definitely teams that are going to give them their best shot. That is for certain.
Number 2, Harris County, tough loss against Jonesboro. Rick Beach was on the call. Just hard for them. Just a tough loss again for Harris County. They got a big one against Northside, and I think it's really the biggest game of their season. If they're able to take care of Northside, sets them up for a really good Stars Mill that they got still yet to play. And if you're Harris County, you're already 0-1 in the region. If you're Northside, you put them 2 behind the 8 ball, and you got a head-to-head win, you're really cooking with grease. So both these teams need this victory really a lot to be able to win the region, which is one of the tougher regions in 4A. Harris County's been the most consistent team we've had. It was hard to drop them out of our top 2. For one, they beat Carver, and I wasn't ready to put Glenwood up there in the top yet, but Harris County comes in at 4-1. Richard, you saw that game, tough loss, but I think they're going to be able to bounce back. And if they don't, you got to start talking now with Coach, obviously with Coach Watson's team making the playoffs, which we were thinking undefeated season.
Yeah, I mean, Harris County's defense kept them in that game. Just the fact that they were able to recover that onside kick and they had a chance to win the game. Jonesboro went up 14-3 because of that touchdown, and it was just tough.
Yeah, Richard struggling right there.
Yeah, I just looking for my
Choke
water. No, that defense played very well. And I think that defense is going to help him win a lot of games. Like you mentioned, Stars Mill is going to be a tough matchup. Central Carrollton, another tough matchup. But, the latest poll in 4A has got Harris County just cracking the top 10. So they are going to be a good team that's going to make a deep run in the 4A playoffs. But like you mentioned, they're in a very tough region. But, yeah, this was a game against Jonesboro that they should have won because they were the better team. I know it was on the road, but they made a lot of mistakes in the game, even though they could have won it at the end.
Number one is the Central Red Devils. And, Jack, they're the epitome of consistent and reloading and just being the best program we have in our area for the last 10 years, hands down. Carver has something to say about it, but Central's got the hardware. They got 2 rings since 2018. They're 5-0, but I want to say this about this team. Obviously, it's nowhere near as good as last year's team, Jack. You know this. Andrew Alford's great, but they struggled against Enterprise. They were losing at halftime. They struggled against Dothan. They struggled early in the year. I know they dominated Smith Station, but the slow start against them was like, what is this? I know they end up blowing them out, but they got IMG this week. Then you got to finish out with Auburn, who I think may be the best team in 7A right now after what they did to Enterprise on the road, and Carver Montgomery. Are you worried about Central at all, or do you think they're still going to be fine even if they do lose to a nationally ranked IMG Academy team on Friday?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, the last 2 weeks have kind of been an eye-opener for Central. I mean, you go on the road against Dothan. Dothan is always tough at home. It is no different. And Dothan gave them everything they wanted. Central came out on top. Okay? Enterprise came into Garrett Harrison last week. And, hey, it was a ball game for the first half until Central turned things around and blow them out. But I will say this about Central, and Patrick Nix will probably agree with it, is that, you probably want these games now, okay? Have these lessons now to learn, like, hey, you can't just go on the road and expect that you're going to be able to blow somebody out, okay? Because Dothan is a really good team, all right? There's no easy days in Class 7A football. It's just not. Okay?
Especially that region.
Exactly. It's the toughest region in the state of Alabama. So, to be able to go on the road to Dothan, and that place is a madhouse, to be able to go down there and get the win, huge, okay? No matter how you did it, okay? And then to be able to turn around, hey, you had a slow start against Enterprise, okay? You come back in the second half and you put things away. That's good. Central, a lot of people are going to probably look at wins or losses against IMG here. And I know if they win, everybody's going to be all over it in Riley Show. And if they're going to lose, if they lose, everybody's going to be all over it. But I don't think that that's the goal of this game. I think the goal of this game is to learn. Especially, you already mentioned it. They've got a date with Auburn coming up, and that's going to be huge. That, in years past, we'll say, oh, that's probably going to be for the region championship. Not so fast, because you got Carver Montgomery in that region. You've got Opelika in that region. It's far from a done deal in that region right now. Okay, you beat Dothan, you beat Enterprise. That's great. Okay, but the heavy hitters in that region are far from done. So it's definitely going to prepare them for the gauntlet that lies ahead. And I'll be honest with you, it would not shock me if the state champion for 7A comes out of Region 2. Okay. And, in past seasons, it's either going to be Central or Auburn. Well, guess what? It could be Central. It could be Auburn. It could be Carver Montgomery. It could be Opelika. Okay. The region is that deep this year.
Yeah, it's unreal, and they're just getting into the thick of things right now. But here's your ratings poll for this week. Richard, you could take it off. Jack, I want to say appreciate you so much for joining us. We're going to have you on as we continue our coverage and your coverage of everything happening in the Tri-City area. But tell everybody where they can find your awesome, great work and what you got on the slate. What's the game of the week this week, WRBL?
You guys know what the game of the week is. It's Northside Harris County.
Yeah.
It's a massive game in Region 3 4A coming up. And, I know it's early in the region season, but it's a massive game for both teams. And, I was looking at the 4A power rankings. Once again, it doesn't matter. but still just something to keep an eye on is that Harris County is number 3, Northside's number 16. That tells me that Harris County's played a tougher schedule. So that's something to keep an eye on too. But we'll be out there. I was out at Northside today. You can catch my coverage of Northside coming up tonight on the Night Watch at 11 o'clock. And then I'll be out at Harris County. Harris County's got an early practice tomorrow, so I'm gonna get up with the Tigers and go check them out in the morning. So we'll have them tomorrow night as well. Plus, we got our latest edition of War Report Wednesday with Mike G from the War Report tomorrow. So be sure to tune in for that. That's been a lot of fun. And then we got those 2 Wednesday night games. We got Kendrick Spencer tomorrow, and then Sumter County Jordan. We'll have both of those highlights tomorrow, as well as Callaway on the road at Pike County. So we'll have those highlights for you on the Night Watch as well. And then once we get through all the storm stuff and everything, hopefully everybody stays safe. Prep Zone Friday night, game of the week down at Durham Field in Hamilton. We'll be live from there, and then me and Tyler will take care of you with all the best highlights around the Chattahoochee Valley at 11:15 Eastern. Same Prep Zone time, same Prep Zone channel.
His name's Jack Patterson. Love you, brother. Talk to you soon. We're going to take a break.
One more thing, okay? Because I was watching y'all at the beginning when you were talking about you guys need an intro. Okay? You guys need somebody to do an intro.
The voiceover work, yeah.
The voiceover. You've got so many people around you that could do that. Okay? You know, if you want to go the funny route, make Chris do it.
Crazy Chris.
Yeah. Make Chris do it if you want to go the funny route, okay? If you want to do the serious route, get me or Rex to do it, okay?
No doubt.
Like, you know, there's many different ways you could go about it. Just giving you advice. But once again, you guys do a fantastic job. Always love chopping it up with y'all. And, of course, we'll see you around. I'll see y'all, you know, I guess Thursday, maybe, if the storm doesn't blow us away on Sports Visions.
Yep, no doubt. All right, his name's Jack Patterson.
See you,
He's
Jack.
He's gonna be the Paul Schaefer of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We're gonna take a break. When we come back, we'll preview what's happened the rest of this week and get out of here. It's the Georgia Alabama Sports Live, so we'll be right back after this. You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
Introducing Gatorade Water. Alkaline and electrolyte infused for great taste. Gatorade Water, always in motion.
Truckloads of fresh inventory are rolling into Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. Check out the powerful new Chevrolet Silverado 4-wheel drive crew cabs, discounted up to $13,750 off. Chevy Equinox with discounts up to $6,000 off. And listen to this, 2024 Chevy Blazer EV, as low as $295 a month. Brand new Chevy Blazer EV, 24 months lease, just $295 a month.
Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. And let's go ahead and throw up the ratings. Not the ratings poll this week in Georgia Alabama Sports Live football. As we preview that, before we get out of here, it's been a long show. I'm glad you already had this, but this week we just did the tri-match, dropped the Harris County Coaches Show. Tomorrow's office hours, also unsolicited hot take. Thursday, and then we're also probably going to be at Kendrick Spencer football game. We'll know for sure tomorrow. If it happens, I've not had any word otherwise, Strong Rock at Calvary softball we'll be doing. And then triple header Friday, Northside Harris County, Carver and Hardaway and Pacelli Strong Rock, all on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And then on Saturday, we're live from the Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC showroom. Richard and I can't wait for that. All right, let's look at this week. Those Wednesday games you see there. Jordan's going to get beat by Sumter. Pretty much that's a one-sentence thing. Spencer, I think, is going to take care of Kendrick. I think they win by 3 touchdowns. They go to 4-2. And I know several people that support the Spencer Greenways. They think they have everything in front of them to be competitive this year. So I expect both those teams to win, Richard.
I expect both those teams to win as well. I mean, who's ready for some Wednesday night high school football? I mean, it doesn't happen that often, but when you have a hurricane that's expected to make landfall as a Category 2 or 3, it should be in Albany sometime Thursday morning. They don't want to risk it or take any chances of playing this game in a monsoon So they've switched it to Wednesday. Same with Callaway Pike County. They're going to be playing on Wednesday as well. And Auburn's playing Moody on Thursday. By the way, Alabama's not really going to be affected by this hurricane. I've been watching it and just tracking the storm, and it looks like it's pushing to the right. It looks like it's going to stay in Georgia. So Alabama's not going to be affected by this.
Moving on, we have Hardaway at Carver. That's one of the games that we're doing. I think Hardaway keeps this close.
Rivalry game.
Rivalry game. I'm definitely leaving Carver, but I'm telling you, as the great Lee Corso said, closer than the experts think. I think Columbus Shaw is also going to be one of those games that's closer than the expert thinks, but I do think Shaw wins that, and they pull away in the end, probably like 35-21, 42-21, something like that. But I think Carver and Shaw both win. Shaw gets to 500. Hardaway goes to 2-4. But again, big win against Kendrick last week, and I think they keep it competitive, and that's what matters.
Yeah, I think that you're going to start seeing some teams pull away in this region. Now that we're getting into region play, we're seeing the top teams that are going to just impose their will. And because, they've got talent on the field, and Shaw's one of those teams. I think that Shaw can go toe-to-toe with just about anybody in this region. We saw that against Sumter County. I'm interested to see what they do against Carver on October the 4th. And I think that Shaw is one of those teams that it could be one of the top teams in the region. I think they take care of business against Columbus, and I think that Hardaway keeps it close against Carver.
Another game that we are no, we're not doing this one, but it's another big game in the GIAA region as Calvary, 1-5, got a forfeit win last week. They basically had a bye. They take on Brookstone. I honestly think Brookstone's going to win this handily, but Calvary says they got something up their sleeve. I believe in Coach Brunson. I just feel like Brookstone's going to be too much. We'll pick these games for high school game day, but I'm definitely leaning Brookstone on that. Another GIAA game is Strong Rock at Pacelli. Pacelli cannot lose this game. They want to make the playoffs this year, and they want to host and maybe even get to host. They got to beat Strong Rock. It's almost a must-win, and that's why I will not pick against Dwight Jones in a must-win scenario. They take on Strong Rock. So talk about those two games, Richard.
Yeah, Pacelli's got their backs against the wall, but, it seems like there's a brand new season when you get into region play. This is a must-win, obviously, against Strong Rock. I mean, the schedule gets a little bit easier. They got Calvary, but you don't want to overlook Calvary and, you don't want to, get ready and not be prepared for the battle for the Brucelli Jug on October the 11th. And then, of course, Pacelli's got Westfield School. Brookstone, they should be able to take care of business against Calvary. I do think that Brookstone is got some winnable games leading up to the battle for the Brucelli Jug. The GIAA is just absolutely nuts. I mean, there are so many teams that are talented that can win a championship. And I've just been blessed, Thrift, that we've been able to do the GIAA scoreboard show just because I've been invested in these teams. I've been studying them. I've been learning about all the GIAA teams, and we're fortunate that we got 3 of them right in our own backyard.
IMG and Central, we already talked about that. I don't think this really defines Central at all. IMG Academy, obviously, we know the $80,000 to go to school there. You talk about this all the time, how much it costs. They just, it's not even a comparison in resources, but I think Central does keep this competitive. But that just, I think, for fun more than it is for actual standings, because in the week after they take on Auburn, that's the game that everybody should be circling, not the IMG one. And then Glenwood going on the road to Wadley. Another game where if Glenwood gets their first loss of the season, they still have everything in front of them. Wadley's really good. They're number 1 in 1A, but I'm going to be honest with you. I think Glenwood wins this game. They go to 6-0 on the season, and you got to start talking undefeated, especially if they host next week Randolph County, who will probably be undefeated coming in. That could be a battle of undefeateds. And then the final Alabama game that, count for our coverage here. We're going to try to be there for this one, but we're going to try to do another Russell County game later in the season. But they lost to Valley last year. It was one of the 2 games we did for Russell County, and looking forward to seeing how they pan out against the Valley team that, they're 3-2 this year, Richard?
Valley's 3-2.
Yeah.
They play every year. These two schools are rivals. They used to be region rivals. I've witnessed Russell County end up playing Valley up at Ram Stadium. This is the second year in a row that they've played Valley at Russell County. So it's funny how the schedule worked out. In 21 and 22, they went up to Valley because I remember I was on the call for that Valley Russell County game. I was actually in the parking lot of Ram Stadium with my phone watching on ESPNU Central and IMG Academy, that game that you had media credentials for. And so it's not a coincidence, but it kind of is. Valley's playing Russell County the same week that Central's playing IMG once again, like they did in 2022.
Ryan Nelson for the Glenwood Gators he has established a winning culture, and the fact I give him an immense amount of credit. Not just the talent that he has on the roster, but the development and then the culture he laid to be able to transition to the AHSAA and win the way he has. Very much credit to him and his coaching staff. And the final game is Northside and Harris County. I almost feel like a must-win for both. If either one of them want to win the region this year, they got to win this game. Harris County won the region last year. Northside the year before that. They've won a region the last couple of years. This is kind of like the rubber match at Harris County. Harris County, they bullied Carver, and Carver bullied Northside. So if there's a betting favorite, it would be Harris County. But after that loss against Jonesboro, Northside getting healthy, having a bye, I'm wondering if that's – I'm not ready to pick it yet. I'm definitely leaning towards the Tigers, but I think this game's going to be very competitive. And hopefully the weather makes it a very interesting game at Danny Durham Field.
Yeah, I don't think the weather is going to be a factor. I think the hurricane is going to be pushed out of there by Friday. But the health of Caden Clay has really been on my mind. I think if Caden Clay is healthy, Northside can spread the football around with Kingston Rivers, Jay Jackson, Trent Cash. I think that Northside's got the offense that can move the ball. It's strength on strength. You got the defense of Harris County. You've got the spread offense of Northside. And then Northside's looking back at the tape, losing to Carver 26-0, a credible defensive matchup that Carver was able to perform. And they're going to try to make some adjustments. But they got to get Caden Clay healthy. I do think that Brandon Wilkinson is a sophomore. I mean, he's had some snaps under center. If Caden Clay can't go, Wilkinson is going to be the starter. It's just, this is a rivalry of all rivalries. And, when we think about this rivalry, we think of softball. But you also got to think of football. And yeah. I think that it's like the equivalent, Thrift, this being a basketball fan. It's like the equivalent of Duke playing North Carolina in football. Or Alabama and Auburn playing in basketball. Still a great rivalry. But when you think like the rivalry, you think of the other sport.
Unbelievable. And can't wait to be able to see these two teams. I'll be on the call with Rick Beach this Saturday at 7:30. All right. We've had a lot of fun today, Richard. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to YouTube. We got a bunch happening. Stay safe. Don't let the hurricane. Hope everyone can get out of the hurricane's way, and then we can have some football on Friday. Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC live show on Saturday, and then the CV Hoops Per Practice Fall League on Sunday. And guess what? We're already in the month of October. We're putting the schedule out. Got another, it seems like 50 broadcasts planned for the month of October. And don't forget about the GIAA scoreboard show. So we got our recap show on Saturday. The GIAA scoreboard show is Friday night, 11 p.m. Me and Richard, GIAA.tv, and the GIAA Facebook page. From Richard Holdridge, I'm Thrift Barringer saying thank you so much to Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC, Gordy Eye Care, CBCC, Pepsi, Zaxby's, and the Beck Center of Academic and Athletic Success for their coverage and support of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.